Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Downtown Development Authority April meeting. It's Monday, April the 12th. Could I get everybody to stand and say the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Lisa, can you do roll call, please?
Yes. Tar?
Here.
Humphreys is absent. Malzahn?
Here.
Brandt?
Here.
Rose?
Here.
Hayes?
Here.
Poznanski?
Here.
Parker?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Do we have anybody here for public forum? Nope. Okay. Can I get approval of the agenda for this evening?
Can I add an item to unfinished business?
Sure.
I'm sorry, what was that? You added what?
Just an item under unfinished business.
And that would be?
I talked to Ron and have some information on the tree that we're going to plant in honor of Ted.
Oh, okay.
And could I add under new business, a proposal of an event?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the added items under unfinished business and new business.
Support.
Hayes?
Yes.
Poznanski?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Humphreys is absent. Malzahn?
Yes.
Brandt?
Yes.
Tar?
Yes.
Hayes? No, I apologize, excuse me. Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Rose?
Rose,
Yes.
sorry.
Okay. Can I have an approval of March's minutes?
I'll make the motion to approve as presented.
Second.
You want an all in favor or you want a roll call?
We can do all in favor.
All in
Okay.
favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries. So Carol emailed us her bill paying for the last month, but we do not actually have a treasurer's report tonight. So I think what she sent to us is just information. We can't really vote on paying these bills without her here.
We could, right? If we have the,
All right. Well, let me look
unless
at
we have
them.
any questions on
Yeah.
certain line items.
Well, this is actually the one that she would send you, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the
She
budget
recently
and
sent this-
the
oh, I
month
see.
and the budget.
What was that, Megan?
She has the budget,
Oh, she
profit and
does?
loss, the budget to actual, and the monthly.
I only have
that
the
email
one.
on my
You gotta
phone.
scroll way
can you
down.
Oh.
There are two attachments at the bottom.
Yeah, send it to my fam's printing one. I don't have a DDA.
It didn't come,
I'm not able to see this.
yeah, I can't see it either.
618. I can't read that.
I know.
Thank you, Kitty.
So it looks like there's bills in the amount of $9,696.16. That would be checks for, two paychecks for Lisa Hall, one for the state of Michigan for payroll liabilities, one for the IRS, must again be taxes. First National of Omaha, it's for $318.91. Telephone, $68.12. Flowers and plants, $8,390. Another one for AT&T, $136.26. That's what she has listed.
Do we know if that flower and plant payment, is that paid
That's
for
the
the?
first, that's,
The
I
first for
believe
next-
that's the first
okay.
half of the flowers for the
Okay.
year.
Looks like she received some money from Bruce Township, $10,543.38.
She deposited $10,543.38. Do we need a motion to pay those so that she's already paid them? or-
She's already paid them.
So there's nothing to talk about.
No, we would typically make a motion to
To
approve those
approve the
bills
bills. Yep.
in the amount of $9,696.16. I'll make that motion.
I'm sorry, can I have the total again? I don't have that document.
$9,696.16.
Support, Lisa.
It's right there, John. If you want to scroll back and forth there.
How long was the Vance Valley contract for? Are we in year 2 or?
It
do we have that?
ends next year, I
Was there a
believe.
second on that?
You've got-
Poznanski,
yes,
second, I
Poznanski.
believe.
Yeah.
Did you support that, Megan?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, you did. Roll call, Melzan,
Yes.
Poznanski,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Carr,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Brandt,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
and Stevens.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, Lisa, would you like to do the DDA director's report, please?
I've spoke to Ian a couple of times in the past month, and the press release that went out is attached to the back of my report. I don't know if any of you noticed it, but it was picked up by the Record. Record had it on the front page. So it was a nice article. They're looking at installation dates probably late this month, early next month is when they're talking about installing. He's going to get me those dates so I can contact Miss Dig. I need to talk to the people who are going to have it. So the museum, the chamber building, just kind of get your idea of where you want to put it. I sent you all a copy of the village board's rules and procedures document, and that was also included in your packet to put in your books, so you've got that for your books. Megan and Bill Miller contacted me about the clock, and we were able to get that taken care of. I contacted Burden because I was worried about somebody opening the clock up and voiding the warranty, and they said, no, that's fine, he can open it up and change the time. So Bill will be taking care of the time. Megan sent me some information regarding the planters, and there is one behind the office pub that really does need to be replaced. It's got one piece that's cracked off the edge of it, and, you know.
Are those the big ones?
They're one of the big ones, right? So these that are on this document that I sent to you, the tapered rectangular one would fit, and this urban rectangular one would fit, so whichever one, you know, maybe look out there and see what you guys think. Kelly and I met at the DDA room at the DPW and confirmed that it's rather a mess and needs to be cleaned up. I spoke with Ray about the flowers, and they are in the process, and he will have them up before the end of May. Again, I did the DIA press release. I sent you the survey questions from the county, talked with Amanda. Kelly and I had a remote meeting with the county regarding the survey and the meeting. And I posted the survey on the DEA website, asked the village to post it, and also sent it to Megan and asked her to put it on the Facebook page.
Do you know if the village did put it on the site?
I believe it is on there. Okay. Pretty sure it's on there.
When do we have to make a decision on the planter?
The planter?
Yeah.
I mean, they'll be planting them the end of May, but, you know, I mean, you might get through it again this year. I don't want to say for sure, but
What are these made of? Do we know?
I think these are more of a,
Composite?
yeah, these are more like a composite. These are not,
The cement one, right?
It's
What's
those trucks back into it.
The cement, like the cement?
no, it's not like the cement ones we have. No, those are
says
actual
resin. Yeah.
aggregate.
Okay.
These are a composite.
So before May, we probably need to tell them, right? If we want to order
Oh, yeah.
these.
Yeah. I would suggest looking at, you know, just taking a look at them online and see which ones you like the best. And, I mean, there are other options out there, but these seem to be a really good price, and
Yeah, it was just when we were looking for the new hanging baskets we have now, this was a company that we had looked at, and so they just continually still send me emails, and they had a sale, and so I just sent it to Lisa and said, hey, check this out. That was it.
Okay. All right, thank you, Lisa.
Yep.
Unfinished business, we have crosswalk and lighting update. President Malzahn?
Yes, so I'm thrilled to announce that we are the recipients from the SEMCOG's Regional Transportation Alternatives Program grant that we applied for. They have awarded the Village of Romeo $190,333.
Good job.
Excellent.
So those 5 crosswalks that we talked about, the enhanced pedestrian crosswalks, and I recapped that at the village level, but I'll go ahead and just remind everybody. So that's 5 crosswalks, one at Washington Street, one at Lafayette Street, the 4 corners, just updating mostly the west side of the 4 corners because the east side pretty much is in pretty good shape with that revamp of the intersection. One at Newberry, then on St. Clair, Bailey Street, and Rawls.
Seems to tie hand in hand with what our residents wanted from the survey.
Indeed. So I'm excited to do that. I have to wait for some further directives from SEMCOG on some paperwork that needs to be filled out on how we'll actually receive the money. I've spoken to Paul O'Meara, so once we do that, then we can start scheduling some meetings to begin the engineering process, define the scope of work, and then send that out for bid. So hopefully we would do that the tail end of summer, beginning of fall, and then the install implementation of the crosswalks would be in the springtime of 2022. So,
Is this the amount that we were hoping for, or
Yep.
was this more?
nope, that's the amount that
Okay.
we applied for, and that's what was awarded. And that's a little bit more than half because there was some discussion about wanting to, the DDA not wanting to do one of those intersections, and I thought it was, that was Washington Street, very important, so we decided that the village would take care of the cost of that one to keep the 5 in.
Right.
We did not include the Church Street one, was the one that we left
Right,
off originally. We talked about doing 6 of them, so.
And
Yeah, that's very exciting.
Excellent.
And it's a big award, a great financial investment from SEMCOG into our community. $190,000 goes a long way. So out of that $363,000, I think, project is where we're at.
And just to refresh, what was our level of commitment?
I would have to go back and look at that minutes, but I thought it was like 80,000, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Right, I remember.
Yep.
Just so we know what we're talking
When
budget.
do they expect work to start roughly again?
Well, we would start with the engineering and the bid process, probably late summer or fall, through the fall, and then installation would be in the springtime
fall.
after.
Good. Thank you, great.
Yep, so.
Do you think we'll be continuing to ask the DDA when it comes time for the upkeep for the maintenance?
I'm sorry, say that again?
The maintenance of these for the future, do you think we'll be coming to the DDA to share in that too?
Well, I guess it depends on what needs to be done, because we talked about that, most of this work cost was for curb and gutter and ADA mats. That should be, pretty long-term.
Yeah.
I don't know about the pavement
It was the striping or whatever.
application,
yeah.
right, what the time frame on that.
Yeah, we did talk about that a little bit.
Yes, so it shouldn't be an annual thing unless there's some sort of damage that happens from an accident or something like that where it would need to be repaired. Most of that would probably be recouped through insurances, but I thought that's what we talked about. All right, so that's very good news. The second was for the lighting update. I have in front of you not only a copy of the letter from SEMCOG, but the Rawhorn. I talked to Brandon Farron from DTE. He was the original contact. And when I went back and said, look, you said you were going to have somebody come and do an assessment and count how many, and we realized that there was a communication gap. And when Brandon told me that they could replace the LED lamps to, or the current lamps to LED lights, he didn't talk about the Central Business District. It wasn't the lamp posts, it was the street lighting, residential street lighting.
You mean the ones that hang over the street?
Yes, not in the central business district. So
Oh.
I revamped and I said, all right, somebody, Rawhorn technically maintains those. So I reached out to Rawhorn, which is why you have this letter in front of you, and said, all right, we have the lamps, we have the posts, we know that we have, 90 of them. And what would it cost to redo just the LED, the bulb unit? So they're bid out at $95 a piece, so it's $43,000. That basically changes out all of the lamp heads. We will have a consistent coloring throughout the central business district, but it doesn't replace the post and it doesn't replace the globe on top. It's pretty much just the light. He did offer a suggestion to replace the light head, which are on the sheets that you see behind that. There's some drawings of, what it would look like. There's some options for some arms, and because I said we talked about putting a hooded sort of light on there that would maybe downcast the light so much and it wouldn't shine up on the buildings. And so that would be included in changing out the actual decorative element on the top of our lampposts. So that's the pricing that I have. I thought we pretty much agreed that we were just at least going to replace all of the LED lights so that we, again, had consistent quality and the same color of light in the central business district. They've already been replacing them. When they get knocked down or burned out, because this happens quite frequently, that's why we have a mix now. So I would really have to go back and recount how many need to be done, because I know out of the count that when he's given us this total, that's for all of them, and they don't all have to be done at this point.
So it's not all 95 that essentially...
Right. I don't know how many, but I know that it's not all 95. It could be 93. I don't know.
Sure. So this 43,000, this entire cost wouldn't be the burden of the DDA. This was going to be
This was the original joint project that we talked about doing this fiscal year to switch out all those LEDs, yes. Which was supposed to be $80,000.
Right, I was going to say we budgeted 45 for it.
Right, but that's because Brandon was doing way more than what we have in the central business district.
But this is essentially, you said, just the internal.
Correct.
Only changing the bulb, right?
The replace existing would be the entire upper part of these, correct?
Yes.
The 179.
Yes, that would be $180,000.
Wow. But the
So how long-
actual, as you call it, globe would remain the same that exists right now. This would just internally change out that light and then...
Right. The $180,000 would be to replace the existing.
The whole globe, everything.
Correct,
Right.
yep.
Christine, do you know what this, by doing the LED lighting, do you know what that's going to save the village? Is it going to save the village a significant amount of money over the course of a year?
I do not know. I don't know what that
But
calculation is.
Will there be cost savings?
Yes, because LED costs a lot less to run than the actual.
Because I'm just wondering, are we spending the 43,000 for, is it an aesthetic thing or is it a cost saving? What's the
I think it's kind of
ultimate goal?
both.
Okay.
It was so that we have consistent light throughout, the same color, and it would just improve the appearance of it. But there is some cost savings to the operations.
Do we know how long these bulbs last?
Well, LEDs last for a long, long time.
I do not.
Okay.
Well,
Justin,
that's
do you
the
have
whole
any idea?
beauty of them.
You can 7 to 10 years maybe. I'm not sure what bulb they're using.
It seemed to me, Zach, the first time we heard this project, it would actually save the cost of them in 7 or 10 years. That was the number that's floating around in my head. That literally, the village would just save the cost of doing this in a relatively short period of time.
Long
Because there
term,
was
it's-
a massive savings in electricity.
So there's not 95 that need to be done, because you said some have already been done.
Right.
And then this 43,000 is not 100% DDA, is that what I heard? It's a split project?
If we still want to,
If
right,
we
if
do
we
this.
still want to go forward with the
Is it a-
split project, that we would share that.
50% then? Okay, so for DDA, it's not 95 total, and it's not 43 total would determine how many we need, and then it'd be 50% of that cost. is
It's
what I'm-
about 20, it'd be no more than 21,500.
Are you looking for a motion tonight?
No, I'm just giving an update, so
Okay.
I don't know if we want to talk about that more in our goals and objectives, of, where we want to stand. This project was earmarked for this
Yeah.
fiscal
Right.
year, so
Right.
if we want to still do it, we can. We don't have to talk about it at budget time. Or we can say, look, we don't want to do that right now, let's look at something else, because I know that we have the pedestrian crosswalks
Right.
going on. There's some other issues with the lamp posts that I want to talk about when we get down there, is maintenance and upkeep. We talked about those banners, brackets up, brackets down. The poles look terrible. They're really, scratched up and marred up, and I think that the DDA should consider,
Painting?
having them painted. And so that, it's certainly not gonna cost 20 grand to have somebody paint it. I don't know who that is. I don't know if that's, a couple of teenagers that get hired over the summer to paint that. But
Okay.
We've
so-
been talking about this lighting project for 5 years.
So let's,
So why,
she's just giving you an update. It
Right.
changed
Right.
somewhat.
Well, we talked about replacing the lamp post in total. That's sort of
Yeah.
what started it, because
Right.
they're in, a state of disrepair. And then we decided that we couldn't afford that, because I think that was like 400,000 or 500,000 when we looked at that whole replacement project. So we can still replace the lamp head, if you want, for roughly what we had jointly budgeted, which would have been the 80,000. It's a little more, because it's 180,000. Would be more like 90,000 if you wanted to replace the globes, or we could stick with just replacing the bulbs and then look to get them painted.
My only last comment is I haven't looked at all of these, obviously, I see a few of them real close to me. The globe that we're referring to, many of them that I see are just dirty. And if they're gonna pull these off and replace any of
I
the
was gonna
internal,
ask the same
it's
thing.
gotta
Are
be
they washing
clean
them?
At the very least. I would think that instead of replacing, they seem in good shape. They just, to me, seem dirty. I may be wrong, because I don't know how they're built, but I would only throw that out there. So
That was
if
my
somebody
ask, too.
If somebody discusses with them the next part of the project.
Maybe if we get some decent
clean it.
spring storms in here, I don't know.
Well, it's on the inside where it's
Oh.
dirty.
Yeah. I don't
I
know what
agree
their
with John,
procedure
because if you're
is.
looking at them,
Yeah, is there a maintenance schedule for those things
No.
like that? Okay.
There is
So
not. They
you
they
bring up a
burn
great
out,
point,
somebody
John.
reports it, we call Rawhorn, they go and they replace it. And they've been opting to put in the LED
But
bulbs
a
because
cleaning-
they're
a
a lot
cleaning
less.
schedule.
Right. I don't know when they fix it, if that's their procedure to actually clean it out or not.
Well, and I think some of them are clear and some are more like.
Those are newer.
Frosted
Yep,
almost.
they're the newer ones.
So there's not,
They
any sort of-
yellowed over time, they're
Yeah.
plastic or whatever they are.
Yeah, but I agree with John that, there should be maybe some uniformity or just some maintenance that's done to the globes if we're not going to go all out and replace those, but, definitely something for our budget discussion.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Christine. Next, did you all have the opportunity to see Lisa's resignation letter in our packets?
Wait, sorry, did we add the tree thing from Carl?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What's
Okay,
it-
go ahead.
Yeah, I just have one bit of unfinished business. I talked to Ron White about doing the memorial tree for Ted. He contacted the grower where he gets trees from is up north, I guess. There's a reason he gets them from there, I guess. They suggested dogwood tree for the area that we want to put it. We talked to Parker's Alley, right? And so he'll get it anytime you want. It costs about $160 for the tree. He will install it himself at no charge to the village, he said. So if we want to, I'll run with that project if you want me to get it done. If anyone has a problem, we can figure out or do whatever we need to do.
I think it's long overdue.
Okay, I have a question. We're doing that spraying for the gypsy moth in our trees in our village. Would planting a new tree affect that tree, or do we wait till after we do that?
That is a question I do not have an answer for.
In that area.
No? Okay,
It should not.
okay.
So, okay. So then the only other thing that we would have to do is figure out what we'd like to put on a plaque for that for wording, and then I'll talk to Edie's and have Hooks Engraving make that up.
It may be a tad behind the eight ball here, but the tree board is planning an Arbor Day celebration, and I'll be talking about this more at the Village Council meeting on the 19th. Arbor Day is the 30th of April, and we are planning 4 memorial tree plantings, 2 at Anna Reese's property, and then 2 at the bank next door. And so I don't know if we could coordinate a memorial tree planting. There's a little bit of discussion and homework that we have to do quickly because of the right-of-way and where the county is telling us we can't, there may not be room for the 4 that we were hoping to get planted just because of space, but it might be a great opportunity to showcase that planting. There'll be some free promotions and some other work that the Mitt TV is doing in conjunction with that, and as well as coordinating the plaques so that they all look the same.
Okay.
We're modeling it after the ones that are at St. Clements in their front parking lot. If you walk through that front garden, they have all their little memorial plaques. So that's on the 30th. So maybe you can reach out to David Miller as the chairman of the tree board. If you need his name and phone number, I'm happy to give you that.
Okay.
And maybe we can tie it in together. If not, it's still needed. I mean, it would be a nice way to,
Yeah.
to honor Ted.
Do we need a motion to spend the money to buy the
We
tree?
are, we,
Yeah.
we,
Oh, it was.
It's our
That
own
was before my
personal
time.
I think we all,
we all
It was our own
chipped in.
personal
Yeah, it was-
donations.
That must have been before my time.
it
Yeah.
was, yeah.
Yeah, it was-
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess as a board, do we want to discuss what we want to put on the plaque? Or is that just a basic in memory of? I don't know how you,
Carl, I would defer.
Edie
to-
would come up
I would
with-
defer to you, Carl. Honestly, whatever you think is fitting or appropriate, I think that
Okay.
would, I don't have any problem
I'm
with that.
fine with that, yeah.
okay. Then I'll tell Ron to go ahead and get the tree and then plant it around, like on the 30th is what the,
That's Arbor Day.
Okay.
Yes.
all right.
It'd be a nice tie-in with.
We're actually going to plant the trees like the week of the 30th so that they're already in the ground for the actual Arbor Day
yeah.
celebration of the 30th, but yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. New
Planning-
business, Planning Commission update. Bill, you attended last month's Planning Commission meeting?
Actually, 4 of us did. Christine was there, and
Lisa was there, and Greg was there, and I was there. I asked Lisa to put this on the agenda because the entire planning commission was totally about the CBD. And the first item was, form zoning? Steve made a presentation on that, and because there was discussion about the individual types of,
The agenda,
There's-
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to overspeak you.
somebody else needs to explain it better than I do.
Right, I drafted the agenda and I presented to the Planning Commission the process in the Village Hall, our zoning compliance certification application, because we're having an issue where somebody who wants to come in and open up a new business, there was never really a formal process put in place. And so Catherine brought with her from another municipality this process, which was reviewed and implemented through Steve Katzen, our village planner. A checklist of documents that we need. So we have a formal packet that anybody who wants to open a business gets so that they know who do they need to call, what do they need to get, whether that's from the fire chief inspecting and the building inspector inspecting and copies of all the insurance certificates. But the biggest discrepancy that we had was the allowed uses, which is in our master plan, and the Planning Commission is updating that. We've talked about that at this board level, offering some input or recommendation on what that amount of uses should say. There's several items in that list, one outdated, but 2 that are like a big gray vacuum hole, right? Trying to figure out what fits in there. First floor retail versus service businesses. And there's just a couple that are broad. Professional services are allowed depending on where the building affronts to. Contracted services, and I believe that it lists 2 but not 3, like plumbing wasn't one of them. So we're like, well, is plumbing still a service business? Is it home remodeling and roofing? and plumbing and electricity. I mean, I was looking for some sort of definition, so I asked them to please take a look at those allowed uses so that they understood our process and where the lag of information was coming from, so that we were all operating, uniformly. So that was what we talked about. Chairman Stegner from the Planning Commission is in favor of form-based zoning as part of that master plan update. And I don't know a whole lot of detail about form-based zoning, but basically it allows more for the aesthetics than the use of the building. So when somebody comes in, we take a look at, are they a proper fit for the aesthetics of the building, and how does that fit in with our historic designation versus just, I want to put a video store there, right? The use.
Steve made the comment that's where zoning, I thought he made the comment that's where zoning was headed today, and you're getting away from this obsolete list, which can quickly go obsolete, and no one even knows that it's going to go obsolete. Like video rental stores went instantly obsolete and kind of didn't even see it happening. But that's, and the chairman did say he supported that. Steve, is part of what Christine was talking about, made the comment that he'd had discussions, and I thought they used the word numerous discussions with the people who bought the what we consider dead building in the parking lot, and their intentions are apparently to put in a bourbon bar. And the next item was there were 3 items. You made your report, Steve made his, then they
The
went on to
cost of the spaces,
Pardon?
Parking.
parking, a lot of
The payment.
then
discussion on the cost of the
Right, well,
spaces.
then they went to the last item. There was actually an item after that, but last item on the agenda was what Christine's going to talk about later, or maybe talk about now, and that's the parking in lieu of fees. And apparently they range anywhere from $2,000 up to,
57,000.
yeah.
From 2 to 57,000, depending on what municipality. And the 57,000, I think Steve said, came from California.
But it's
Which may not be very helpful.
locally, Rochester's 7,500. I was told Auburn Hills was 15,000. I don't remember who he said 2,000 was. Lisa, do you remember?
I don't think he cited any.
Somebody said 2,000, and I can't remember what they.
he said that was
Eventually, they were looking to make a recommendation to the village board, because that's what he needs to have a number put in there. The chairman made a motion to use the $2,000 figure, and there was a second to that, and then the motion died. I think 5-2 vote, 2 people, the chairman and somebody else were for it, whoever seconded it, and the rest of the board declined.
So for
to-
instance, this House of Tudor that was purchased for this bourbon bar.
Yeah, well, it used to be the House of Tudor, and
I know.
you know what I'm talking
But
about.
it literally has no parking. So where would
Well,
he be?
really? I
He
understand,
would have
John.
to pay, in theory, $2,000
For
or
those,
whatever.
those that are along his one side, right?
No, he doesn't
For
own
whatever
it.
that business really deems necessary, say it
By
was
the square
35.
footage?
Right.
Okay.
He'd have to cough a lump sum one time, $70,000 in that example for parking. And that would go into a kitty or a fund to then buy and create more parking
parking.
eventually.
Okay.
Or maintain, either one.
Well, ideally, create more.
Correct, right, I'm just saying that.
And that's a big issue right there, between maintaining and creating more, because maintaining doesn't do, I mean, we gotta do that, but maintaining doesn't do anything to the new bourbon, for the new bourbon bar that needs
I would
parking.
agree with Greg. I don't believe the word maintain was used. If it was,
I
don't
agree.
hear it.
And
So-
that's what I'm afraid of, and
Of
that's
course,
why I
we might have been
said,
gossiping with each other while that was going on, and.
But by maintain, do you mean snow removal? Or are you
No.
talking like actual,
Like
Bolts.
striping,
Okay.
right? If we have to restripe those municipal lots.
which that should be used to go and acquire a vacant
Lot.
house, whatever it may be, to be next to the post office and these types of things. That's where we create more parking.
Yeah, because if you go
Apparent-
off of this model and every business is doing that and no longer required to have the correct amount of spots, you're basically counting all these spots now 10 times over. You're going to have to
That's
create
just a
more.
reality check of the way it's been forever. Other communities have proactively, and apparently it was in the last zoning,
It's in the zoning.
but it was never, they
Right.
never penciled in a number,
Yes.
which is, of course, insane. The sheer, if you disregard the cost of buying land, and just disregard it, it's going to be free, right? Someone's going to give it to us. You're going to get to a number between, I think when Lisa talked to the paving contractor, it was about 12 or 15,000. Am I correct, Lisa? When we talked about this last time?
Pretty
The number
close.
I got was closer to 4,000. Be that as it may, it's some rather extreme amount of money. Just after you've got the land, then to put down your base and put down all this stuff and have your retention basins and everything you got to do, you're going to end up spending between $5,000 and $15,000 a piece. I think, are you going to make a presentation on this later, or just deal with it now?
I think you're covering it now, so, right, so we're good. No point in rehashing this.
Okay, the planning commission said, they couldn't make up their minds, and it's going to be up to the board. Essentially, that's what happened.
So it's going to
Regrade-
the village council?
Yes, they sent it to the village council without
Yeah, they're
recommendation.
going to kind of let the village
The
council.
village
decide.
council can study this, and they'll make up their minds, but the planning commission couldn't.
That
They
needs a
think that
lot
there
of-
should be a fee involved, but the motion to send was, yes, you should adopt this policy, and the village council should determine the fee. It was at their discretion. That
They
was
didn't
the-
want to
that
get
was the-
involved in it. You can
They
tell.
did not
There was a
feel-
proposal made to start at $2,000, but they couldn't get enough people to vote to send the recommendation of $2,000. So they just agreed to let them go figure it out. But that's a big issue, and we need to weigh in on that because, you know, you get a business that comes in there and has to cough, 35 grand for a handful of spaces and is there 2 or 3 years, and then a new place comes in. So I don't have the answer to it, but it's going to take somebody giving a lot of thought. Otherwise, it could really drive anybody out of here wanting to try to do something to
You know,
better.
Craig, the reality check is if you want to put a medical building in the Romeo area, you're going to spend a few hundred thousands of dollars to buy the land, and then you're going to spend a few hundred thousands of dollars to pave it and have the appropriate amount of parking, which every single area around us has. Okay?
Well, and you're right, Bill, and I sort of misstated
So
that
it's-
because it's per building and it's not per business, meaning the businesses could come and go over a decade, but that building owner is going to be responsible for having spaces. The problem becomes some businesses that go in there at times will only require 6 spots and others will require 16.
That's understood.
Right.
So if you've got someone comes in with a 6-spot, that's fine, they've paid into it, and then they go out, and because they don't sell videotapes anymore, and someone else comes in and they need 16, then they're gonna have to pony up some money.
Yeah, well, how that formula works, I don't know.
Yeah, because what happens when you've got the landlord? We're talking kind of like a person who's looking to purchase a building and operate a business that they are opening. What happens when you have somebody, we know how it goes for the most part, the business opens up before anybody knows, and you don't know what you're dealing
Well,
with.
that's
So if the landlord's not paying into the
Right, it's not the landlord, it's the business. It can, when they're joint, when it's the same person, it could be the landlord or the business, but it is the business that needs the approval for the zoning compliance certification. In order for them to get a C of O, they have to be approved, site plan if necessary, and that meet the zoning requirements, which would say, based on your square footage and your usage, you need X amount of parking spaces to meet this occupancy load.
So then
And if you do not on site, then you have the ability to provide payment in lieu of whatever that fee is, and that grants them they meet the obligation then and can open, and that creates a slush fund, a kiddie fund that gives
And
them
I would
latitude
expect a
for.
very concerted effort to be going on to acquire these parking places. And this isn't about space I have on our side of town, but, we got those handful of spots and Zagos, there's various ones. I've never in 20 years heard any real attempt to acquire places to park. I'm not suggesting we need the spaces, I'm just saying, if we're gonna start taking money from people for that, somebody has to demonstrate that we're looking to buy property, that we're going out there and doing it, even if we have to do a bond or borrow the money, whatever it is, we need to spend that money to make that happen.
But is it the DDA collecting the money for this?
No, it's just
Okay.
it's a DDA issue.
But what I'm asking is it then, let's say I'm renting a building from Greg, I sign a lease with Greg, and I come to find out when I go to open my business that I don't have enough spots to open the business I want to open. Is it then my responsibility to hash it out with you?
Yeah, that's between you and I. Then I gotta say, hey, I gotta raise your rent because you need so much parking, and then you say, I don't wanna be here, and forget it, I'll go to Armada, and do whatever. So it's not that cut and dry.
Right.
So with it being sent to the village,
Right.
council's going to now decide?
I'm asking them, yes.
And we should be advising, this is a true DDA.
Which is why I wanted to add it to this agenda, to say,
Which is the reason
do you
I
want to
asked
weigh
you
in,
to-
right?
Yeah, I do.
You want to weigh in on what this fee
Yeah.
should be.
Well, see,
Now's the time.
So, yeah, okay. I don't want to keep rehashing the communication aspect of it, but like, is it just like because the planning commission passed, now it's falling onto us?
No, I think we should have been consulted first,
That's what I mean, but
frankly.
we weren't, and the planning commission was
That-
unable to make so are we getting the,
She's asking us for a recommendation
Do
as
we
to,
want to make a recommendation? And I do.
Right. The planning commission recommended that we should capture a fee. What they didn't want to do was determine what that monetary amount should be.
the 2,000 you're quoting, is that somebody that's local to us?
Our village planner came and said, through his research, he found anywhere from 2 up to 57,000. Locally, he specifically mentioned Rochester, which is 7,500
yeah.
per space. That's their policy.
So can I ask a local landlord for some advice here, what that fee should be based on being owners?
I think we have to, there's a lot of work. I don't know, I'm perplexed, but I think the recommendations we should make is that the DDA should send an adversary or entourage or whatever of probably 3 of us who own real estate in the DDA, or
I don't know
4,
time allows.
to weigh in and advocate and be part of the discussion.
right, and that's a great point, Greg,
This
because
can
how
drive
can
you
We've been
20
talking
years
about
from
this.
now where your building is worth nothing.
Sure.
Easily.
Well,
So-
and
No, that's
how's
not
that
true.
How's
Yeah,
that?
it is true, Bill.
That
It is true.
That conversation.
If they put the price at if they put the price at $16,000, and somebody tells him for that usage, they gotta come up with 20 spots because of coffee bar they want in his thing, they're gonna have a hard time coughing $16,000 times 20 spots. So,
And it's hard to put a price tag on it without knowing what
right.
it would cost to develop a parking lot, without having that, if we're charging $5,000 for a spot and.
Which is why it's never been put in place.
Sure.
Which is why we're in the position that we are right now, where we have no funding and we have no parking, or maybe we have parking, but we have an enforcement issue. And so
Right,
it's being
so-
brought up now. Do you want to put a fee associated to start capturing some revenue that would eventually give us the latitude? Because this is not retroactive to anybody who's already in town, right?
Yeah,
No
but
one's
it-
going
no, it
back to
is.
John saying that he has to now pay for his parking. or-
yes, but if we own, like you, Christine, another building, you've invested a lot, someday the print shop will go way of video stores, whatever, just like my business, whatever it is. And somebody will go there and want to be there, and whatever drives it, I get it. It will be retroactive, because if you still own the building, you're going to have an issue providing parking spaces to the guy that puts a bourbon bar in there and wants to serve 80 customers a night and needs 45 spaces. And the village has established there's $6,000 a space.
Is it the building owner, or is it the business that paid?
No,
It's the business.
it doesn't matter.
But
If some,
it's
Right,
up,
what he's suggesting is that I would have a hard time renting it
Right.
out
Right.
if that was the case, right?
I think if we work to enforce parking limit timing, issue tickets and citations, we would probably find we could move people through, we could figure this stuff out, and we could probably start studying this and really stall it for a year and then figure out what to do, but we're not even enforcing. We have people who own businesses who park in key spots on Main Street with lettering on their trucks or cars, or, all kinds of things that go on before we, there's more to do before this. So I'd be very cautious before we really advocate the village trustees to do something, because they don't know what to do, and I don't know how many of them own real estate in the Village DDA. So it'd be an interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're putting landlords you're putting their backs up against the wall a little bit, because they're going to have tenants who come in wanting to rent, and then their conversation with the village is going to be, you're charging me these fees, but you have no plan in place with what to do with the funds.
You have to have a plan in place. That's what I'm suggesting. If we're going to talk about parking and parking studies and prioritizing parking, where are we going to start purchasing property? You have to have a plan in place to capture the funds, yes. But without the funds in place, you can have the greatest plan from 1998 that's never going to get done.
Right, but
Right?
but if you don't know what it costs to do that, then how can you put a price on it? So if you're saying let's just say it's $2,000 per space, but it's going to cost you, I'm throwing out a large number, $500,000 to develop a parking lot, you're never going to get there. You're never going to have the funds to be able to do that. So without an accurate number to start off with, how do you know what price tag to put on each space?
Well,
I don't
that's
think
why-
you can just throw out an arbitrary number.
That's why you pay for expert to do a parking study, right? All of that information is basically in this document from 1998, and it's outdated. So if you want to do that, you pay an engineering firm, so you come and you say, well, this is what you have, and if this is what you're looking at, this is the cost of real estate, and this is the cost of...
But then you're just asking, because if you go through that plan, 80% of what was asked to be that long ago has never been done.
Never been done, right. Because there wasn't a funding mechanism to pay for it.
But there's a lot of stuff in there that didn't cost an arm and a leg funding-wise. And the biggest thing is, we don't enforce our parking.
Right.
We are not enforcing our parking.
But you have a scenario, probably within the next year, of 3 new businesses that have no parking associated with their building that want to come in. All would be looking to be in the southwest quadrant, and their parking is already a problem there.
Right.
So do we just allow them to come in, or do we say, all right, we have before, but now we realize that this is an issue. We talked about that with the medical building that's over on Bailey Street. If we would have had a fee in place, he was willing to pay it. He is accustomed to paying that in other municipalities where he puts these structures. We just had no fee on the books. So therefore, he got approval and he didn't have to pay into it.
How often can that fee be changed?
The usual saying is that the village council can set a fee structure, I don't want to use the word arbitrarily, I forget what the word that's in there, occasionally or from time to time. Like we do for building permit fees, we assess that from time to time, and we assess the rate. So there is no determined time frame. It could be for,
It sounds like something needs to be put in place so that as this starts to happen, funds can be collected now regardless of what the dollar amount is.
Right.
So even if but is it worth throwing out a high number?
No.
Let me talk this through. Is it worth throwing out the high number to where you are ensuring that those places that are going to need that kind of parking, if they're going to need that kind of parking, they're going to pay for those spots because they know they're going to bring it in because they're going to be flush with customers, and then it can always be reduced.
Okay, let me play devil's
Yeah.
advocate. You're talking about 3 new businesses in the southwest quadrant, correct? You impose these fees on them coming in. It's not going to pay for any extra parking right now with what you're going to collect off of them. So how do you?
not next week.
But you're still going to have the problem.
Right.
You're still going to have the problem, but
That's
now
what
at least
I'm
you'll have the
saying.
money to go along with it to get something started.
Yeah,
to
but
put
Zach,
this
I
in
mean, I
place.
hear you, but you gotta follow that one through. So that business, that building owner who just renovated that building, now he just got tagged with another $40,000 in fees, $26,000 in fees. He's now gotta pass that on to this guy who wants to start a bourbon sipping room or whatever whatever. It's not that simple.
No,
And then you do that for 4 or 5 years, and then you're like, okay, or 10 years, say it works out. Now that guy has just funded all this, and then but we don't need the money maybe. Now we have parking spaces, so I don't, we gotta find out.
Well, if this is being done in other municipalities,
But we gotta find out how it's being done. We don't know that yet. We know very, very little about this. So,
But they're gonna make a decision on it.
well, no, I think you're looking for a recommendation from us sort of to go there with, correct?
That was part of the
Yeah.
reason why I brought it. Does this board
So are we-
feel like they should weigh in? I think it should be.
Absolutely. We
You're
should.
the DDA, right.
so you're looking for an amount.
No, I don't
Yes.
think we need to
Yes,
be
she
dependent.
is.
Our recommendation should be that it needs a ton more research, bring us some ideas. We don't think you're in any position to set this at this point because we haven't been given any good data on what this really means long-term or looked at other villages, how it really works.
Is this the reason the planning commission punted?
Probably, yeah.
Same discussion.
What's that?
No, that's
Exactly the same
not, that's not why they,
Same discussion as the planning commission? I was
It's
asking?
not.
They just didn't want to make a decision. I personally would like to make a motion that we
Well-
recommend a fee of $3,750 per space.
Right,
That's half of what Rochester is. Now, that can die for lack of support.
We have nothing, just respectfully, but we have
Greg, I
nothing to
made
do
a
with
motion.
Rochester.
If
We
nobody
are
wants
not
to support it,
Rochester.
then it dies.
Right, I got you. So, just, I'm tired of the references of Rochester. We're just not there.
Well, we already understand the parameters of what the zoning requirements are. So we do know, based on whatever their proposed use is, this is the parking that they are required to have by the zoning. All we're now is assessing a fee for the ones that they don't have on site. They can still meet that load.
how did they get it otherwise? How did they get approved otherwise?
They were always just using the municipal lot, right? And so in this parking study, it says that you can reuse that parking space how many times? If you got 10 businesses and they're all using 10 parking spaces, before you know it, your 100 spaces, you're obligated to 1,000, right? Without a
And that's what
plan,
has been
right?
done.
The Office, Youngers, Bon Appetito, the Coney Island, everybody is, in that block is using exactly the same spaces. And there's a reality check is that about a third of that lot is privately owned. And I assume you all know that.
So what do those private owners get?
We smile a lot. We pay taxes on it because I get the tax.
Well, and
bills.
if that needs to
And
be
we- just a minute,
addressed.
And we pay to have improvements made on it when the parking lot's redone. I mean, we have, in fact, written out checks in multi-thousands of dollars for when the lot has been redone twice. Again, I handled the checks, I know.
Okay. I was asking,
Okay, I know,
in this
but I-
scenario, what happens to the private-owned spaces?
It's there, and we did it because of concerns about overnight parking. Every once in a while, the village would go crazy about overnight parking. And so,
But in some of those
The
spaces, there
long
is
story
overnight
is-
parking because there's people that live above those
Yeah.
storefronts. I'm just asking, if we do this scenario, what happens to the privately owned spaces?
nothing happens to those
Nothing. Okay.
privately owned, we still own them. And
All right.
we work with the village on keeping the back two lines not posted. If you look, they are not posted for non-overnight parking.
Okay.
Actually, in the actuality is that most of them either use the back.
All right, well, Bill put a motion out on the floor for $37.50 per space as a recommendation to take to village council. So is there a second on this motion?
I feel like I should abstain from this discussion since I'll be voting it on the council level, so.
So that.
Well, your figure is based on a 50% Rochester, is that where you?
It's a decent, actually, I thought that the $15,000 on Auburn Hills was reasonable.
Do we have a second?
Motion dies.
Motion dies.
I just don't see how we can make a dollar amount recommendation without having any other information. That stuff, for Rochester, have they used those funds to purchase any property?
Yes.
Did they, okay, and what what did that cost?
It's
and what
probably
did-
how they did that parking structure.
That's what I'm wondering, was that funded by that? And so, but we don't know,
We're never
we
gonna
don't
have
even
a
have.
structure.
Can we make another motion perhaps, Kelly?
Go ahead.
you can-
All right, so I'll make a motion that we request formal participation in the parking fee project on the village board level.
But if this is going to council for this month's meeting,
To-
she is going to ask that board to either deny or approve a fee.
And I would ask that it be brought to their attention that the DDA would like to be involved in that.
Well, are you going to go to that meeting and give?
I'll gladly go to that meeting as long as it fits, and they don't need to make, they can say, let's watch this for the next year. We don't need to do anything about
Been
this.
watching it for 20 years.
You're right, Bill, I agree. But what I'm worried about is a guy like Zach in 23 years from now, when you and I won't even be involved in this,
I'll
that
be
his
dead.
building has some value, okay? And people
His
want.
building is going to have more value because there will be more parking, right?
Yeah, well, but you think so. And in the interim, when somebody comes to him, when he says, I don't want to do stuff I do, but a bourbon guy wants to put a space in here or place in here, but I need a spot for 40 parking spots. And now he's just voted on something for $7,000 or $5,000 a spot. Where's it come from? I mean, where's the money come from to go buy those spots? I don't.
It comes out of the guy putting the business in there.
Yeah, that's right, and you think he's
It's the
ready
cost
to
of
pay
doing business.
$9,000 a month rent? I mean, I'd love it if it worked that way, but we need more information, that's all I'm saying.
What would the, I mean, Christine, Megan, weigh in here. How would you guys be making this decision? What information would you guys be using to make a decision on a dollar amount? There's got to be, it can't just be, I
Off
know
the
it
top
might
of
say
your
it's,
head, right.
I know it might say it can be at the board's discretion, but I mean, it's got to be backed up by something. There has to be something to shoot for. If you're gonna put that kind of price tag on a parking spot, whether it be the business or
At this point, I have nothing,
the.
because I don't have an agenda or a packet for the meeting. I watched the planning commission meeting, I'm listening to you guys, writing notes. At this point, if I had to do something, I'd do it really low, just to get something on the books to start somewhere. To maybe put a scale into place for future 5, 10, and have plans, have it into our master plan that by a certain amount of time, we're moving this somewhere. But other than that, at this moment, I don't have a number.
So I mean, ultimately,
They're going to decide a number.
they're going to decide a number whether we give one or
Right.
not. Our
What?
recommendation could be though, Greg, to say that.
Do they gotta decide a number the next meeting, or can they just table it?
It's going to be made a motion that,
They don't have to decide anything. I mean,
Right.
everybody has one vote. But the problem is, this has been in place without a fee assessed for 100 years, right?
But there's 100 items that have been like this for 100 years.
Exactly, and
We
so
gotta
we
start
need
with one.
we need to start somewhere. So talking about it for the next year doesn't help us capture what we know is coming in the next few months to start somewhere doing something.
But nobody in that meeting in a week from now or a month from now even knows that this is gonna be discussed about, in theory. Megan's gonna be there, she was not aware of this, I understand.
Well, we talked about
I
it
watched the
before.
planning
But other than
Right.
that.
Yeah, no, that was it.
Okay, so I don't think that seven.
Justin's going to be there, you can talk to him.
We've talked about it, our goals and objectives, that that we need to look
Yes.
at this.
And we talked about it when we ultimately approved
But
the
they don't know,
Capitol Medical
on
Building.
that Monday night that that's gonna be one of the things until they get the board packet 5 days before. Say, oh, we gotta talk about this, and then someone's gonna whip out a number of $4,500 a month.
No, what they're gonna
Or-
get in their packet is exactly what the planning commission got in their packet, which is the recommendation of the village planner that says other municipalities do that with the fee between $2,000 and $57,000, and what his recommendation is.
Well, you know, I guess I'm here sort of as an advocate for building owners as well, who are not even aware that this is going on, who own these buildings and live in different communities, and all of a sudden, they'll discover that now, next time somebody wants to rent their building, they've got to come up with maybe $26,000 to accommodate a pizza place. I don't think that's the way we build friends and influence people. Myself, I think we got to get this out in the public more to these people who are the taxpayers on these buildings and rightly represent them and not, I look at it like a sneak attack because, they're paying taxes on these buildings, they live in wherever, and I think we need to get there, but we've got to do more education on our own part and of the people who own these buildings and let them weigh in on some ideas as well.
I think it's too hard to make a decision like this in the amount of time that we have. I mean, we weren't really given an ample amount of time to make an informed decision as a board to form an opinion. So based on that, I would make a motion to say that the DDA's position on this is that there's not enough information to make an informed decision about the price of a parking spot. And that's what we have on paper as a board to what can be, because it doesn't, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's the village board's decision ultimately, but our recommendation is just that, a recommendation. It's not a decision, and it wouldn't be even if we said $5,000 a spot. But I don't feel comfortable putting a price tag on a parking spot when I don't know what it costs to create parking in town. We need more information.
We actually had that conversation several meetings, Zach, and we decided we couldn't afford it when we talked about the property that was just purchased next to the post office. It was going to be $180,000 for 14 or 18 spots. We know you cannot create a spot under $10,000 a piece. It cannot be done.
So to Zach's point, at that rate, none of us in this room will be alive by the time there's enough money to secure property and build a parking lot.
If you're doing it at $2,000 a space.
Right, and if we do it at $10,000 a space, good luck if you own a building in the Village of Romeo for anybody who might want it for a use that has more than 2 people
Well,
coming in.
what if you look at it from the existing businesses? It hurts Vicki and Glenn to have another restaurant come in or 2 that want to now serve a bourbon bar with no parking, so
But it
they're
hurts them
coming in.
more to have their employees park right around there rather than booting them to the outskirts. Do a deal with the Lions Club, do a deal with Zaycos who own 25 spots, pay them $1,000 a year, push them over to that
From
spot.
what money? From the $2,000 a spot? Is that what we're gonna pay for it with?
I would think, I'm not running the budget for the village, but it would be, we have a $200,000 or $250,000 parking lot that was built across from the River of God that sits empty 90% of the time. Start writing tickets, and I'll bet you'll start flooding some waitresses and waiters and hostess to park there for 6 hours. And maybe we drive revenue from tickets. I don't know. I'm not an advocate of that, but I think.
I haven't looked into it enough to know the rules regulating and what is allowed for parking fee structure, but I'm going to guess that it's similar to like allowing a permit, and we can't recoup the literal price in just one permit in just one business. So putting it at the exact cost of the parking space, I don't know that that's actually allowed.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, but then you would know how many of these, how many people would have to pay in for it before you could actually execute that project. Because if the project execution is not even feasible based on the amount that you're charging, then what's the point of having the fund? It just doesn't make any sense. Those funds are going to sit there and no progress is ever going to be made.
Can I hear Zach's motion again? You've got a motion.
There was a
don't you?
motion first over here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I can't reiterate it.
He basically wanted to recommend that the DDA have, an invite to the table to talk about this process.
That's the motion on the floor?
But if it's going to
I didn't mean to
council.
speak for you, but right.
No, that's
Well, if
fine.
it's going to council for a vote,
It's on council's agenda.
Right.
Whether or not they vote, whether or not they table it, whether they say this is the most ridiculous thing you've ever brought to the table, President Nelson. I mean, I have no idea what they'll say because I haven't had this discussion with them, other than they know that these situations have occurred. We have dealt with it in other instances, and now it's probably either time to act, form a subcommittee, whatever whatever that discussion is. Yes, it is on the agenda for the 19th.
all right, John, what were you going to say?
No, I thought Zach had a motion.
No, yeah, I think yeah. I'm sorry.
So do I have a second for my motion, then we'll start there. And then if it dies and we move on, maybe Zach's got a better idea. Do we want to, my motion is that we suggest to the village council that we as the DDA have a voice in the discussion on how they might set parking fees. We'll call it.
Is there such thing as a cross-board subcommittee?
I mean, right, so no, we had the consortium meetings, right, where we're all trying to collaborate on,
Our rules
you
of
know.
order allow us to have, what, resident, it's not business owners, though. Is there one, no, there's two of them, and the one is for only resident committees. Does the other one allow non-resident business owners?
I don't know.
I'd have to look it up. Because the council could cause the creation of that committee, but I don't know if non-resident
could be
business owners can be on it.
Greg has a motion. Is there a second?
Was there a second to Greg's motion?
I'll second the motion.
Lisa?
I think she needs a new notebook.
I took 7 pages just in an hour and a half.
What do you say? Bring your sleeping bag, right?
Yeah. All right, so I have it as DDA request formal participation in a parking fee project at village board level. Does that work? Hayes, second?
Hayes, yep.
Yes. All in favor?
I do a roll.
I'm going to abstain, so.
Do a roll,
I don't know.
Lisa.
Tar?
Yes.
Hayes?
Yes.
Parker?
No.
Rose?
Yes.
Brandt?
No.
Are you abstaining, Megan?
No.
or-
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, abstain.
Okay. Stevens? You got everybody?
Yes.
I think it fails, right?
No, carries.
4. Yeah, it fails because you and
Yeah,
Megan
two
Wow.
abstained. Yep.
Yeah, so it fails.
4-2.
No.
How do you
voted
figure?
no.
We,
Yeah.
Greg, Hayes, Rose, Stevens.
that's 4.
The abstentions go with the,
Oh, it goes with the no? Oh, okay.
sorry, I know.
Also, what is it?
I didn't
At
make
least,
that
at
rule
least it
up.
wasn't my math. It was
I know.
just,
Right.
the details.
Okay,
So what is it?
it
It's
failed.
nothing.
It's nothing.
Zach, you want to make a
Doesn't
motion?
mean you can't come and say that at the podium during public.
Nah, I get it.
Yeah,
I
we're-
can't fathom why we wouldn't want to, and Bill, you've been around here a long time, why wouldn't we want to have a voice there?
But we can if we just go to the meeting.
I get
It's
that, but
time
why
to stop
wouldn't we make
talking
that
about it and
recommendation?
Start doing something about it is what you're hearing, and you don't want to hear it. Put a number in there.
No, it doesn't. We don't
Okay,
have
then
enough
let's- then move
information,
on.
Bill.
Kelly,
Okay.
move on to something else.
All right.
This is, we're not going to agree on something unless
No,
someone's
John,
going to...
were you gonna
It's
say something?
essentially.
I just wanted to say one thing,
Yeah, I mean,
related but not
forming a
related.
recommendation
Okay.
As,
at that
as
point.
as a member of the DDA, I appreciate that, not the length of that discussion, but that issue coming to us.
Yeah.
It's kind of on the list of things we've talked about in the past, is how can we at least be more of an advisory board?
That's right.
Which we can't be unless, so I guess thank you, Christine, for at least bringing what you did
Yeah.
and giving us the opportunity to discuss.
Good point, John. And Bill, thanks for bringing it to the attention to kind of us, like, hey, this is going to go on. And Christine, thank you for being there and kind of bringing along. These are really super important issues, and we need to be part of them.
Right.
That is what we should be doing.
But I mean, I don't want to keep going here, but like ultimately, then we're not.
Well, now
We're
we
not-
need
we're
to
not
get
doing
up
it.
there to
We're
the
not
podium.
putting our
Given the
voice out there.
opportunity.
We need to get up
we're
there,
given the
Zach,
opportunity,
to the
and-
meeting. We need to get up to this meeting and speak just as a DDA member, I guess, and as a building owner. Now we're more aware of what's going on,
Right.
and these are important issues. And if we had that list of building owners, we could now send out an email and say, look, there's something really actually relative. You should have your butt down there at 7 PM to speak your mind about what you want to know. And I think these village folks should listen to it. They're elected officials. They want the best interest for the village, and then they've got some stuff to process.
Yeah.
So.
I don't want
it's a good
to
start.
beat a dead horse, but I have a question, Christine. This bourbon bar is coming, and Glenn and Nikki came to the council pleading their case of not having enough parking in that quadrant. So you can't deny this person wanting to open this bourbon bar. Just, does he have enough parking with his square footage there?
No.
Currently, he has not brought forth his actual zoning certificate application. So
Okay.
we do not know what his occupancy load is yet to make that determination, which
Okay.
is why this is a pressing issue, because we know that there's this instance, and there's also
Right.
2 others that we're aware of. Again, I don't have anything formally submitted, but if we don't have a process in place at the council level, I can't make it retroactive.
Right.
It's important. We got to get through it. You're right.
All right. Next up, Lisa has submitted her resignation letter to this board. I don't know if you all had an opportunity to read it. She is willing to continue helping us until we do find somebody to replace her. Through the DDA rewriting of our plan and the TIF, she was going to stay along, and as I said, she had to help me. But what do we, if we go down to the next line item, our expectations, our compensation, to put this job opening out there?
I think you need a committee.
That's, yeah.
You need a subcommittee. You can refer back to the notes. Lisa probably has it from the last time that we hired Judy and Kim, I think, were the last.
I've got it all.
Oh, you
from
do?
Lisa. Yeah, no,
Oh.
I've got it because Randy and I had we basically, just the 2 of us, we went through that process. So I've got and we can include this for, I can email this out to everybody just to refresh, but it was just like the description, the benefits, the hours, the wage, and some of the qualification requirements. So I can email that out to everybody, and then Kelly, I can work with you on
I think, yeah,
going
a
through that
smaller committee
process.
to,
But there was a scale as far as, as far as making a decision, the criteria, and it was something that, because Randy was around when Judy was hired as well, so he was part of that committee that hired her, so.
so I say the subcommittee will meet and bring back recommendations to this board of hours, payment, what we're looking for.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
And I'll, whoever is on that committee, I can email this out to, so you guys can have a little refresher. But we chose Lisa because, of her experience, and, Lisa, I do want to thank you for your time here on the board. You've been great in the director position. But I will say, we only had 2 people apply, and I'm just saying that just from the interest of the position itself, just keep that in mind when we go through that process, based on what we were putting out before.
So Lisa, for those that maybe didn't read the letter, could you just give an overview of what you said you would help us through with till we find somebody?
Well, I mean, obviously, you're in the middle of this plan, and you've got public hearing notices that are going to need to go out, and you've got things that need to be done, and I will help facilitate those things. I'm not going to be around in the daytime, but I will check the emails at night. I will watch for those things. I'll make sure that, the misdig stuff gets taken care of for the DIA. I talked to Amanda, and I told her, I'm going to make myself available. I'll still come and do the next couple of meetings, take the meeting minutes. Anything that Amanda needs me to do, I can help out with that, and I can meet with you at night, and we can go over stuff, so.
She also volunteered when we hire somebody if we
Yeah.
wanted her to do some training, but it would have to be, of course, later in the day.
In the evening or on a weekend if they wanted to do that. That's what I'm doing with the other job that I'm leaving also. So, I'm more than willing to do that. As I said in the letter, this is my hometown. I was born and raised here. I've been here all of my life. It means the world to me. And I will be available to volunteer for the Art and Wine Walk, for other things that you need done. It's been a pleasure to work with all of you, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Well, we thank you for your service.
Yeah, thanks for your willingness to help transition too, that's huge.
You're welcome. You're
Well, she
welcome.
stepped up too, because like Zach said, you didn't have a whole boatload of people banging down the door.
No, and I think Lisa slowly evolved into the position because I think she might have been a little apprehensive at first, and it was an interim position, and then
I remember, yeah.
we kind of needed her to step it up, and she did. So.
I would like to make a couple of comments. All right, so because I'm born and raised here, okay? When I left the DDA on Friday afternoons, the DDA didn't stay in that office. It's kind of difficult when you leave that office to just back away, and I know that all of you own your own businesses, so you don't necessarily step away. I think it might be a good thing to actually have somebody like Judy or somebody who doesn't live here, so that it's not just, like, I mean, I drive through the town at night and say, oh my God, there's a Christmas light out, or there's this, or there's something, so. And then the other thing, and I mean, I know the wages are concerned, but I think at this point in time where things are at, you're gonna have to offer somebody $17, $18 an hour. You're not going to get away with $15 an hour, because you can go to Target and make $15 an hour, and it's a pretty mindless job. There are certain things that you have to do, based on reporting to the state and knowing some of the laws and things like that. So, I would hope you would think about that, before you hire somebody. I know pay is a tough thing, but you want somebody that can actually do the job and is passionate about it.
Well,
Definitely take that under consideration,
Yep,
too.
we
yeah.
appreciate the input, yep. Okay. Megan, you had an event you wanted to talk to us about?
Yes. So it's just an idea that I had talked to Lisa around, threw it around. Weekends in May, sidewalk chalk. Getting sidewalk chalk in front of all the businesses, just a bucket of sidewalk chalk. Come to the downtown, possibly offering prizes for each weekend. I've reached out to staff who did the mural, said, hey, would you be willing a weekend, like if I could put a date and a time and say, hey, the mural artist will be out doing sidewalk chalk, come watch, or maybe give a how-to, maybe even bring it into the residence where if you take a picture and you send it, that can be included in the prizes. Just something that was going to be leading up with the art for the DIA. It's, I want to say COVID friendly, where it's open space, you're spaced out, you can come do it whenever you want. And it was just a fun idea tying in with the art.
So what would we be, because you mentioned this to me before, so I have kind of a better idea of the picture of everything, but like, there would be like buckets of sidewalk chalk in front of every store, and we'd kind of be encouraging people to get creative and, share pictures.
Maybe each weekend there could be a different theme to what we're looking for in the art, if you wanted to throw it out there that way. Maybe separating adult prize to a kid prize. I had asked Carl what could he get through business, and he said for a 36-piece box it was $2.60, so under $3. So it's not a very expensive project. It's not something that anyone has to watch. I was thinking that if you take a picture and you send it to the DDA, either the Facebook page or an email, that's how we judge the pictures. That way, if it rains that night, I didn't miss one coming out the next day to see them.
So it would be up to the public to get their entries submitted?
Yes. So that way, even if you wanted to not come downtown and be part of it, or bring your own chalk, or because you don't want to touch chalk or whatever, that you could still involve the residents also.
So total, what would that, you said it was?
It's $3 per box for all of the businesses.
So
buckets of the big, thick.
So it's $3 for a bucket, and we would put one in front of every business.
Something like that, yeah. It's just a ballpark of, I don't even know if it'd be 100 or a couple $100.
Not to exceed 250?
Because I guess we have to include the prices for the prizes, and the idea would be, again, to
There's
get,
I'm sure we could, yeah.
get
I
the
was gonna say
prizes
we could get
from
people to donate.
the businesses. I
Are
really don't
you
want
going to do the
ask-
promotion on?
Just on
the
Facebook.
Yeah.
Ask Mitt to throw something out there.
Yeah, and I'll
I
just
didn't
share
really want to
theirs.
ask businesses
Yeah.
to donate, given how everything's been lately, so I wanted us to be purchasing the gift cards to the different places. So maybe a couple hundred, just weekends in May. I was thinking random name like Chalk the Town, Chalk of the Town, something Chalk up the Town, I don't know. Whatever. Someone would chalk.
There was a former chamber director that did something like this for sidewalk sales, but she used paint and walked steps through, and we couldn't get them off the sidewalks for months.
Real paint.
So use chalk, as long as it's chalk.
But I can totally see, I mean, it's a great idea. I could totally
like
see
it.
it doing it like for the art and wine walk as
Right.
well, right?
Why I ran it past Zach was because I was thinking, what if we could do T-shirts, $5, $10 T-shirt, and that goes towards something here at whatever we want to raise our money for here.
Well, maybe we could use that to hire one of those people who does like the professional, like 3D chalk paintings. Have you ever seen those? If we could find somebody, even like, the same way we found the DIA set us up with the artist for that mural. I mean, I'm sure they could find somebody who specializes in outdoor art or something like that. I think it's a good idea for a tie-in for the,
So I didn't,
Lisa, when is the official DIA kickoff?
It's the end of May, but I
End
can't
of May?
remember the exact.
I like
So
the
this-
idea.
Off the top of my
because
head.
it wasn't put on this agenda, our next meeting is before the weekends in May. We can approve money at that time.
we can't approve money today.
Well, I wouldn't.
Oh,
It's not something that needs to be done.
I'll still order the stuff for you.
Yeah, we can order it. I can get paid back in time or however we do
Okay.
it. But no, for the next agenda, that's what I would get put on there so I can actually come up with a hard number. I was just getting the basics for you.
I
See
would
if you guys
support.
like the idea.
think it's a great
but
idea.
don't you have to start promoting it like right now?
Yeah, I can do it, but that
Doesn't
takes
cost
me
anything.
nothing but
Okay.
a couple
All right.
hours of time.
Great idea.
I like it.
Okay.
Thank you.
See, you don't need to be worried.
Okay, board member comments. I have a question. Do we want to table the rest of what is left on the goals and objectives?
I say we give one more half hour and call it at 9.
I
Okay.
need to use
That's
the
fair,
restroom.
because we have a lot of stuff to do for the budget still.
Right.
And we haven't really had a chance to look at those numbers either, so.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with Christine, throw another half
Go to
hour
9.
out there.
So we have to adjourn this one and go back to the, can I have a motion to adjourn the regular meeting of the Downtown Development Authority for April the 12th?
I'll make the motion.
I'll make that motion.
Carl made it, Christine
support.
second.
You doing all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.